Welcome back to the Daily Dope. I'm your host, Brian Doe. And, sometimes you get some shocking news because these days we're moving in the direction of ending prohibition eventually. But the first step, I guess, is legalizing marijuana. And before you can even do that, you have to decriminalize it to see how stupid that is when you just decriminalize and you don't regulate the marketplace. But baby steps, I guess. And then if you do regulate the marketplace, that's fine. But the prohibition has to end. Like, are we going to regulate the marketplace by kicking people's doors in still and arresting our own citizens for a plant? I mean, it's the future of this movement, but we should start talking about it more now. Ending prohibition is very important, especially federally. So when you talk about the holdouts that you thought would be the holdouts to the very end, I thought Texas might be one of those states. But it looks like they're starting to see the light too. Texas Republican Party endorses marijuana decriminalization. And this is breaking this is Tom Angel, who breaks pretty much the majority of real concrete marijuana legislative news or marijuana activist news. He's on top of that too. So there's really no reason for anybody at this point to not be paying attention to Tom Angel. Thanks again, Tom. And if you really like what he's doing, you can contribute to him. So let's go ahead and read this. Delegates at the Republican Party of Texas convention on Saturday voted to approve platform planks endorsing marijuana decriminalization, medical cannabis, industrial hemp. Unbelievable. They are also calling for a change in cannabis's classification by the federal government. Now that is kind of believable because what we're talking about there is a vague thing that basically says reschedule as opposed to a deschedule. But it's the Republicans, and we're going to let them we're going to let them take their baby steps as needed because it's better than where they were, and it's better than where we thought they would be still. So, quote, we support a change in the law to make it a civil, not a criminal offense for legal adults only to possess 1 ounce or less of marijuana for personal use punishable by a fine of up to $100 but without jail time, reads one of the party's new positions. Now, that's pretty cool. I mean, we've had a kind of a thing like that in Ann Arbor, Michigan since the 1970s, and that's been fine. Nobody's had any problems with that. The fine is a little high, and I have seen in Austin and other places in Texas where they tried to float this idea where they would do like graduated civil infraction fines. I don't like the graduation, and the fine number, that is a little high. The graduation thing implies that you're doing something bad, which is stupid. So anyway, quote, Congress should remove cannabis from the list of Schedule 1, says another. That's kind of a weird way to put it because, I don't know, like I said, they're talking about rescheduling as opposed to descheduling, I'm pretty sure. If not, that's just a safe way to say that they don't like Schedule 1 without actually stepping into the next debate. So we'll let them slide on that one too. A third asked lawmakers to expand on existing state law that provides patients with limited access to low THC medical cannabis extracts so that doctors can, quote, determine the appropriate use of cannabis to certified patients, which might be good news because we might be talking about expanding the condition list and getting THC more involved. Because we're time and time again, we're reading stories about cases like the family in Colorado or the family in the UK, where time and time again they're saying that the CBD only medicine is not enough, like Alexis Bortel even says. That's exactly why more research is needed, of course, but in the meantime, anecdotally, when you can see somebody actually getting better because they're using the THC as opposed to CBD only or really low amounts of THC, how can that not, what do you think, that's fake or something, that they're faking it just to get THC? I don't understand how you don't realize that, people are actually being honest or whatever, like this is actually working because of the THC, and that the CBD alone stuff isn't working, or it worked to lower the amount of seizures maybe, or it worked to make the seizures go away instantly or within minutes because of doing a massive dose of CBD or whatever. But with THC, we've seen people that had seizures no longer have them because they use the THC medicine. And that's very important. Not even having a seizure in the first place is way more a desired outcome of the medicine than just being able to treat seizures as they happen. That's just common sense. All right, the Force says industrial hemp is a valuable agricultural commodity. And these are tweets you can share. The official GOP, Oregon, and the red state like Texas would voice support for such far-reaching cannabis reforms is the latest sign of how mainstream marijuana has become in American politics. Earlier this month, President Trump voiced support for pending bipartisan congressional legislation to let states implement their own marijuana legalization laws without federal interference. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is sheep-herding hemp legalization legislation to passage while with the support of Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. And we already seen also Dana Rohrabacher, Republican from California, put in this thing called Respect the State's Marijuana Laws Act, I think it was called. And we've seen that gaining steam in the recent weeks after the Trump, talking about keeping his promise on states' rights, and then promising Cory Gardner that, and then before he left for this G7 summit, he said that he would support what Cory Gardner was doing. So we've seen all this, but what do we know is going to happen? Well, we got to think about Pete Sessions. Remember him? He's also from Texas. And the good news on that is that there's actually a race going on. This isn't
Adam
one of those
is about to go car shopping right there on a smartphone. With auto gravity, you simply select the car you love and see your estimated monthly payment. And you get
so that's a race. So Pete Sessions isn't a shoo-in. Hopefully people are aware of this issue, because if we can get a massive motivated army of people to go vote for the Democrat against Pete Sessions, and I don't even know anything about the Democrat, but this is one of those situations where lesser of two evils might be our only chance here. I mean, come on. The Democratic Party of New York endorsed legalizing marijuana at its convention last month. Texas Republicans, like the majority of Americans, are ready to see more sensible marijuana policies enacted, said Heather Fazio, coalition coordinator for Texans for Responsible Marijuana Policy, said in an interview, quote, "Our state wastes valuable criminal justice resources, arresting between 60,000 and 70,000 Texans annually. Delegates took a stand this week for a better approach." Wow, 60 and 70,000 Texans. That's unbelievable. And like everywhere else, that's somebody getting arrested less than every minute. While it would be preferable for cannabis to be descheduled entirely, this call by the Texas GOP signifies a very positive shift in opinion. Outright prohibition is not working, and Texas Republicans want to see Congress take action to make cannabis more accessible. The new planks cleared a multi-step process at the party convention, including testimony before an approved two committees earlier this week, leading up to Sunday's vote by nearly 10,000 delegates. Supporting marijuana decriminalization, federal cannabis rescheduling, and industrial hemp is now the official position of the Republican Party of Texas. Unbelievable. Under current state law, possession of up to 2 ounces of marijuana is a criminal offense punishable by jail sentence of up to 6 months and a fine of $2,000. Lawmakers legalized medical use of low THC medical cannabis extracts in 2015 during last year's legislative session. Bills to provide more comprehensive medical cannabis access to decriminalize marijuana got record support from lawmakers and advancing committees, but the clock on the legislative session ran out before floor votes could occur. And, you know, I talked about Michigan having like a divided Republican caucus that can't get along on the idea of marijuana. In Texas, it's weird. It's like they have the same dividing lines in their Republican caucus, but they all have somebody in each caucus that is for marijuana for some reason or another. Like in the Tea Party wing, you have like people that are actually like Ron Paul type, you know, libertarian, you know, freedom kind of people. And then over in the religious right side, you got the guy that was like, yes, I believe that God gave us all the green herbs and seed-bearing fruits to use as we please. And he, you know, to him, it's a biblical crusade to legalize marijuana. So there's something like that going on. And I think, you know, Texas has a better chance of legalizing marijuana legislatively than Michigan ever would, just because of the things I've seen coming out of it in the last, like, 4 years. So that's my observation. But anyway, cannabis reform activists hope that the new official GOP endorsement will provide a boost leading into the next session, which begins in January. So I guess they just basically booted this into the next session already. Is that what that's supposed to be? Under the current medical cannabis programs, most patients are being left behind, Fazao said. Texas conservatives are seeing the value of medical cannabis and want to see more inclusive access. Now we will take this to the legislature for action during the 2019 legislative session. Okay. At the party event this week, there was 4 cannabis-focused booths at which delegates could get information about the issue, 3 from supporters and 1 from an opposition group, marking the first year that marijuana organizations had a presence in the convention expo area. That's because before they probably got arrested in the parking lot. During a floor debate on the platform planks on Saturday, one delegate moved to narrow the endorsement for hemp to cover support, quote, for the express purpose of non-consumable products. Again, that's Big Pharma rearing their ugly head in to try to squash CBD. Is this ridiculous or what? What is your excuse to try to prevent people from having whole plant medicine or even just CBD from cannabis plants or hemp? What's your motivating fucking factor, man? I know what it is. You don't like the competition because you got Big Pharma stuffing money in your pocket. So yeah, that was defeated by the convention, and that to me speaks volumes. You know, maybe it's because it's an election year and not a whole lot of people want to look that stupid to try to squash the hemp industry and put a big, like, you know, put a big restriction on what they can actually do with the massive amounts of CBD that gets produced incidentally every time you grow a crop of fucking hemp. Are we supposed to just throw that shit away or something? Or does the DEA have somebody that'll come by and confiscate it for you, you know, under some kind of amnesty program? Come on. This is ridiculous. Leave the hemp alone. Leave the hemp CBD alone. If anything, we would just want you to make sure that people that sell it and package up and label it and make millions of dollars off it, first of all, they should lower their costs so it's not reflective of black market cannabis oil prices. That's ridiculous, even for THC-based products. I'm sick of seeing that. If you're in a legal environment, why should you have to pay black market prices? By the way, just that's my curiosity. And furthermore, on that point, yeah, like I said, the only thing I would like to see is regulation in the sense that we know that if you say this has this amount of CBD in it, that it actually does. And it doesn't have any byproducts in it that we don't want to have in it. That's basically it. You know, other than that, get away from it. Leave it alone. Quit trying to do this. All right, an earlier party platform approved in 2016 contains similar medical cannabis expansion plank, as well as the hemp one, but nothing on the federal rescheduling or decriminalizing marijuana. party's new endorsement comes amid a contentious and close U.S. Senate race between Ted Cruz, who opposes legalization but has voiced support for respecting state cannabis laws, and Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who has long supported legalizing marijuana outright. Meanwhile, a powerful Texas Republican, Pete Sessions, who, remember, if you pay attention, he's the main reason why nothing will ever make it to a vote, because he stops it in committee and it doesn't go to a vote, period. And then we heard him do an interview about that, and he basically has the gateway theory is it. That's what he puts his whole, political career. He puts all of his intellectual, accolades, all that. He puts it in a hat and throws it in the garbage can and claims that the gateway theory is a strong enough thing for him to say no to letting legislation go for a vote. So Pete Sessions has got to go. All right. So anyway, he has used his perch as a chairman of the House Rules Committee to block floor votes on cannabis issues in Congress over the past several years. His bid to be reelected in November is considered a toss-up by Cook Political Report. Texas Democrats hold their convention next week. The party's current platform, as adopted in 2016, supports decriminalizing marijuana and further legalizing and regulating its use, cultivation, production, and sale, as is done with tobacco and alcohol. So, what is this? Civil penalty. We support a change in the law that makes it a civil, not a criminal offense. That passed 81% to 19%. Compassionate use, we call it a legislator to improve compassionate use to allow doctors to determine the appropriate use of cannabis certified patients, passed 90%. So this wasn't just like it passed. This was like landslide. Everybody wanted to put their name on this. Cannabis classification. Oh, it's a straight up question. Move it to Schedule 2, 82%. All right, no surprise there. That's what I thought the whole way through. This is the first time I read this, by the way, so sorry I didn't already know that, and I was just guessing, but whatever. It just shows that when I'm speculating about shit like this, I'm usually dead on, and I don't like to be wrong, but if I am wrong, I will admit it, and I'll go over that anytime anybody wants to challenge something I've said, or my opinion, for that matter. I think my opinion is pretty much, it should be where everybody else's opinion is about all of this shit, including the corporate takeover. I mean, let's face it. The corporate takeover is fine and dandy, but there's a lot of people that are getting fucking crushed under the wheels of it, and that's not cool. All right. Hemp. We recognize industrial hemp as a valuable agricultural commodity. We urge Texas legislature to pass legislation allowing cultivation, manufacture, and sale of industrial hemp and hemp products without the exception to where we can only do non-consumables. Because, first of all, you are eliminating the CBD. Clearly, that's your intention. But with that, just like anytime you ban hemp and marijuana, for some reason, there's like side effects of that shit. Well, if you ban consumables, we can no longer eat hemp seeds? What are you talking about? That's not even a Schedule 1. Like the DEA said, Schedule 1, CBD does fall under Schedule 1 according to their bullshit, voodoo science, crazy shit. So, all right, man, I don't want to go on this all day. But that's what's going down, and that was Tom Angel bringing that to us again. And we will keep our eyes on that. We'll keep our eyes on the Democrats' platform to see if they've made any adjustments. I would hope that they went one step farther and go for straight up to ask the federal government to deschedule. And as far as hemp goes, same thing. Do not touch the CBD. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done that, because I'll be bringing you updates to this story, and we'll be keeping up on the Pete Sessions race and the Ted Cruz race and everything else going on, because this is an election year. Please don't prove everybody right and be that lazy stoner that don't care. The time for that is done, man. We got to do something. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and browbeat you for not voting, because you're just totally like lost interest in these fucking politicians that do nothing for us. I don't blame you, but you know what? if you have something that relates to this issue in your area and there's a way to vote for something, you know, whether it's just some candidate that might be a champion for the movement or the, you know, the policies that we are trying to work towards, do something, please. All right, peace.